So, welcome back to the No Degree Just Experience podcast. Today we have a special guest joining us.
Yes.
She has been the HR person of at least 20 Fortune 500 companies. And no, that's not.
No.
She's started from a young age, working up to her career, building her career, and now she's in HR, a leader, I would say, in the HR industry here in Houston. And she's also my mom. Welcome, Mom! Bring Mom to work day. No, I'm just so excited to have you on here because you have a lot of good insight on the professional world and giving advice. I mean, you're HR, so that's literally who people see first when they're hired. So just wanted to talk a little bit about you and, your background.
Okay.
How you got all that advice to get me out of all of the podcast harassment cases that I had against my co-host?
No, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we could dive into your work history and your background and all your professional advice.
Okay. So my name is Rachel Alvarado. I was born in East Bernard, Texas, raised in Grapevine, Texas. And then when I was 11, we moved to Rosenberg, Texas. So was raised there from that point on until adulthood. And so now I currently have 3 children with great spouses and 4 grandchildren that are our pride and joy. And
I'm the favorite son-in-law.
he is. He is a favorite. I've said that many times.
Yeah.
So I've just recently picked up embroidery, and I really love doing that. It's very therapeutic.
You have some amazing work. I love what you've been doing.
I really am surprised myself and proud of myself for doing that. I really have come to love it, and it's very therapeutic for me as far as coming home and kind of releasing that stress and, from a hard day and tough week, whatever it is I'm facing in my job.
So you're telling me that after a difficult, stressful, tough week, you like to come home and play with sharp objects?
Sure. Yes.
Can we just put her embroidery that she's did
It'll be
somewhere around the screen?
right here.
This is what my mom made for a special friend of mine who was pregnant, and she made this by hand, and it's beautiful and it's colorful and it was so intricate, and I was very impressed.
Was this your first embroidered thing?
Basically, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, mom used to do the Christmas stockings where you stuff, you make the little figures on the Christmas stocking and you stuff it with cotton.
Yeah.
So
I remember. I still don't have one.
Yes.
yeah, it was just for the core family members.
I do have 7 more to make. That's for my grandchildren and my other 3 children.
I just better get one before Lucy does, or else we have problems.
You'll be the first,
Let's
Charlie.
hear first.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll be the first to get one.
But you've made a lot of cool things like the blanket, and
Yeah.
you're really embracing that grandparent stage.
I guess I am. I've turned into the old lady I never wanted to be. But
No,
here I
not
am.
old. My mom is actually fairly young, and we just grew up together, and that kind of is a good segue to how you started your career early on, because you had me young. And what was your first job? When did you start working? What was your first job?
I started working at 15, and at the time it was through a co-op program at school where they placed me at a dealership, Joe Denton Buick Mazda in Rosenberg, Texas. So I worked there part-time because, I had to go to school too. So I was in the service department, working in the parts department up on the top counting nails. I mean, it was very boring, but that was my job. And eventually I made it over to the showroom floor where they needed me to answer a 10-line reception phone. So I worked from 7 to 9 at the receptionist desk with the salesman in the dealership.
Wow. What app gives you 10 lines?
It was not enough. It was a huge phone system with the buttons across, and you were just putting people on hold and
That's
answering.
crazy.
Yeah, it was
It's
really
like
neat.
one step removed from the ladies who are like, "I'll put you through." Plug, unplug.
That's right. Yeah, just one step away from that, but it was pretty
Wow.
much it. But I learned it pretty quickly, and I really loved it. And I was there for 2 years when I graduated. I was still working there, so that was my first job.
That you will never find a 15-year-old doing that stuff nowadays.
No,
Not with
No.
that attitude.
Come on,
Our
like
kids, let me tell you what, our kids gonna have work ethic.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. But that's another thing too. It's like back then the work ethic was I'm 15, I'm able to like work. I want to work, and you work hard.
Yeah.
You've been working since you were 15. Like
Yeah.
that's a long time.
it is a long time.
Cuz most people start their careers now early 20s, 'cause like after they graduate college or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So
It's way better than the job that I had when I was 15. Like more responsibility. I was like a manny, a male nanny. I would pick kids up from school. I basically got paid just to play Xbox with this kid and his sister.
but it was a job.
Yeah, that was
It
my
a
job.
That's true.
That was
It was
work.
a job.
And I mean, well, with my mom being a single mother with 5 children, I mean, I contributed to the family and, by working and paying for my own way through high school, gas in my car and, prom dresses, things like that, graduation rings. I mean, I helped my mom as much as I could, but kind of
Yeah.
paid my own way too. So,
That's
I mean, it
awesome.
was important. Plus, I did gain that work ethic that I knew I was going to need.
So, like, when
know.
you got your first check at 15, what were you buying? Like, what couldn't you wait to buy? 'Cause
Yeah, right. What's a 15-year-old spending money on
In the
back
80s.
In the 80s.
I think like Jordache jeans. I mean, it was that thing. It was popular. You either wore Calvin Klein's or Jordache jeans, and
That's
I
so
mean,
funny.
just the clothes that my mom couldn't buy for me. So yeah, I mean, I did give her money too, but I did splurge a little on
Yeah.
myself.
Got it.
funny. How much were Jordache jeans back
At that
then?
time, maybe $30 or $40. They were expensive at the time.
Wow.
Wow, that
In
is
80s money, that's
Yeah.
like $1,000.
Yes. I'm not that old, Charlie.
no, it's like inflation.
Inflation.
It's just like, geez. Like
Yeah.
nowadays, jeans are like $50. $50.
Yeah.
$50.
Spending $30 at jeans at Walmart.
No, Walmart's coming up though.
Yeah, Walmart is coming up. Shout out to Walmart.
Yeah. So like what was your like progression in your career? Like so you graduated high school, you kept working. Did you ever like take a break or like did you just job after job after job?
Well, I did take a little break. As you know, I was a young mom.
Yeah.
Your dad joined the Marine Corps and he left. So while he was there, I moved to the West Bank side of New Orleans. with
Shout out to the
Mom.
West Bank.
Yes, yes. So I moved there to help raise you there with Mom. And during that time, I worked at Ecker Drugs. It was a pharmacy, like a Walgreens. And so I started in the cashier front area. And
Did
then
you work at that Eckerd's on Marrero?
it was not in Marrero. It was in Terrytown,
Oh, okay. I don't know what you're talking
right off of Carol Sue.
about. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was that Ecker Drugs.
That's crazy.
So I started at the front desk where you pick up your pictures. People would develop a lot of film at that time, so we would sell all of that stuff right there in the front. But then I moved over. There was a spot in the cosmetics, and a spot opened up in the cosmetics area. So I volunteered to say I want to work there, and that became the love of my cosmetic journey.
Yeah.
Perfumes and makeup and hair and just everything. So I was there about 2 years in the cosmetic.
That's kind of
department.
how I've always grown up with my mom, like in the mirror, getting ready. That's also like what inspired me, I guess, like how I got into makeup too. Like later on in life, I'm like, my mom was always putting on makeup. She always looked her best everywhere she went. It doesn't matter if she's like going grocery stores shopping. Like my mom was always put together and like your perfume choices and collection. Like, yeah, that's where I get it from. So
That's but the same thing. I watched my mom do her makeup every day and looked her best every day for just for herself and for my dad. And, she always said, y'all need to look nice for your husbands, when they come home. And
So you gonna
that
get
was-
raw me however I feel that day. It'll be sweats, no makeup.
My parents just said, just wash your clothes.
Yeah.
So from that point on, when your dad returned from Okinawa, we were stationed in Washington, D.C. So immediately arriving, I find out I'm pregnant with Alex. And so I'm not working through 89.
That's my brother, by the way.
So from 89 to 90, I was not working. I was having a baby and taking care of you both.
Just living the dream.
Living the dream.
How old were you, Mom?
At that time, maybe 22.
So you were
21,
in
22.
DC pregnant with a kid already, young age, under 4, 2 under 4. Basically living in a city you don't have family in.
Right. No
That's
family, no
scary.
friends,
That's scary.
nobody to,
There was no cell phones, there was no
No.
FaceTime, there was no nothing.
No.
What year was this?
1989.
Wow.
So, we still had the long distance calls, the phone bills with the long
That seems
distance
like
calls.
yesterday.
So I
though.
couldn't call my mom every day because it cost us.
That's
so
crazy.
It was maybe once or twice a month that we may talk to each other.
Wow.
So, once Alex was about maybe 6 months old, in 1990, one of the Marine Corps one of the Marine Corps buddies that your dad worked with had a wife that lived nearby, and she came by and said, "Hey, Rachel, we need to fill a position. Are you, wanting to work? Because I could get you on board." And I said, "Well, sure. We needed the extra money because the Marine Corps didn't pay a whole lot." So I found a breezeway right across our house where Alex stayed.
Yeah.
Her name was Chrissy Kruzmeyer. She was a great, great person. Had a little girl herself that was your age. And so I, was comfortable, left Alex there and went to work. And I was very, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was very surprised, I guess, because I didn't know that I could maybe fulfill this position. It was with the government, basically a contractor for the government. I hadn't had a job since Ecker Drugs.
Yeah.
So now I'm going into this big position, not knowing, if I can handle it, what I'm going to do. And so, I come to like it. And basically it was verifying all of the credentials for visitors that come through to see lieutenant commanders,
Oh,
for
gotcha.
secret and top secret meetings and things like that. We had to make sure their credentials were on file.
You got top secret access?
Yeah, I
What?
ended up having to get a secret clearance myself to
Dang.
be able to have this job.
Wait, should this be redacted? Do we need to redact this right now?
No, not at all. You keep it.
Let me ask you something. So if you went a couple years like not working, you went from Eckerd, stay-home mom for a couple years with 2 under 4, what did it feel like dropping Alex off, Rocky's in school, and then you actually get to go and work? What did that feel like?
It felt great. Like
It
it was
felt
right?
It was sort of liberating because I was now going to interact with adults.
Yes.
But
Thank
I
you.
was also sad because I was going to miss my kids.
Yeah,
But
and
when
she
you,
was
when you dropped them off, you didn't even look back though, right?
I mean, maybe a
Get out
little
of
bit.
here.
Maybe a little bit.
But she was like, what, 22, right?
Yeah,
How old were you?
I was very
22?
young, very, very young.
Wow. Wow.
Going
wow.
into this government world that I knew nothing about. And
So you were the youngest on the staff, right? Or like in
pretty
your
much,
area?
Yeah, the other Marine wife and I were both around the same age. Everybody else was older, and so there was a staff of like 12 or 13 of us, I think. And then within 2 or 3 months, we moved from that little old building that I started working at to this beautiful big complex. I remember it called Crystal Park 5. So the government agency that I was working for was called SPAWAR, and it stands for Space and Naval Warfare Systems Command.
Whoa.
So it's
Wait, hold on.
Hold
What?
up now.
You got top secret clearance at the Space and Naval Warfare Agency.
Access to actual Star Wars.
At 20 years old.
And she had this secret clearance. So that means that she
Yes.
could go and rent the lightsabers whenever she needed.
Pretty much.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
so yeah, I was very intimidated by all of it. I'm sure I was. And so, but a few months after that, we moved into this big giant building, beautiful marble lobby, floors, walls, everything was beautiful. And we were to the side of the lobby because that's where we had to check in all the guests that were coming through that needed top secret clearances on file, confidential and secret clearances on file. I mean, these were people from the royal embassies around the city
Oh my
coming to
goodness.
see lieutenant commanders in the building to have private meetings. I mean, I met people from the Royal Navy.
That's so
The-
cool.
Yeah, the Spanish Royal Embassy, like people from all of those embassies would come through our building, and it was our job and our duty to make sure that they were cleared to go upstairs.
Yeah.
It was a big role, and so
Wow.
When's the tell-all book coming out?
yeah, I don't know that I can write it.
We got ChatGPT now. Just insert the names.
Exactly. So sometimes there were challenges, but we made it happen. We cleared everybody every single time, every day. We cleared them through, and if someone showed up that didn't have a clearance, then we would have to call their company to send it over, and they would email it. We did have email at the time, so we would,
What was
Present
that
it.
like? Having email like for the first time
Oh, yeah.
electronically.
It was odd. Like, this is a new thing. I mean, even just moving the mouse along, and that was a mouse. Like, the arrow, like it was all new. Like,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So,
That's so crazy.
but I was there about 5 years, and within 6 months, 6 to 8 months that I started my job there, I was promoted to assistant manager.
Okay.
And then so
Wow.
about 6 months after that, the manager left, and I was promoted to manager. So I was managing 8 people in this visitor control office,
At a top secret clearance agency
right, for the rest of the 3.5 or 4 years that I was there.
at 25 years old.
23, 24,
23.
I don't know.
How old were the people
Well,
you were managing?
They were older than me.
So did they listen to you or like?
Oh yeah,
did
sure.
it-
I mean,
okay.
that's when I realized that.
A 5'0" Latina boss lady could go tell everybody what to do?
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. But that's when I realized that I really love people, managing them and helping them succeed.
That's
You know,
perfect.
they would come to me with their issues. We would solve their issues, and I'd help them find ways to be better. Maybe try something that's a lot easier for the next time. And how to handle a situation. And so, it was just something that I became passionate about. So I think those management skills led me to where I am today,
Which is HR.
HR director.
Yeah, how did you go from top secret clearance to like HR industry? Like what did you do in a nutshell in between that time? Like what kind of jobs were you in? What positions did you take after
Who did
that?
you have to blackmail to get to where you are today? Your security
Yeah.
clearance?
Yeah.
Right. I just need to make a call to Washington, D.C.
Dang.
No. After that, when we moved back to Houston, I started working for an AC and heating company. So in their accounts payable. So that was just some experience I hadn't had. And then I went to an accident reconstruction company where when there's a crash, these people that I worked for would go to court and they would be on the stand because they were professionals in the reconstructing of the accident.
So they would like reconstruct, display
How
it.
it happened, whose fault it was, down to the scratch and dent of that accident.
Yeah, because I remember
Yeah.
you had that job,
So-
and you would say
Yeah.
that they would know like the speed they were going, the angle they were going at, like
Right. That's when I was pregnant with Christian.
okay.
So that was my job then. But
My youngest brother.
it did become really gory when I had to keep seeing all the photos of, the
Like-
blood, the person.
You had crime photos, like,
Yes,
not crime scene
I-
photos, but like car
I
accident.
I would go through
Oh.
them because I had to know where those pictures were going to what
Like case?
Now I see where you get
like
it
what
from.
associate, like what, like,
Is that
like
How many times she watches something, I see her face go, "Ooh," I'm like, babe, what are you watching? She goes, no, you can't see this.
yeah, I had to know where those pictures were going to, like which engineer was gonna, who was handling that case,
Yeah.
basically. So it was pretty fun and interesting. And then I had Christian. So once I had Christian, then I, was off for another year with him, leaving him with your Aunt Erica. He stayed with her for a while I got a job with Harold McKeever. You remember Harold McKeever? Mm-hmm. So he owned his own insurance agency, and I was his office manager. I handled all the books, all the money, all the payables, the people
Yeah,
that
you were his
worked
right
in the
hand
office. I was his right
for
hand.
a long time?
I worked for him for about 6 years, I think, and I mean, I knew his bank account access, logins, everything, but learned about the insurance world, how that worked. So I got exposure to that.
So are you a fan of insurance, or are you like insurance
Not
is
really.
a scam?
No, I wish we didn't have to pay for insurance, but it's something we need.
All right, couple questions of the story thus far. Is first of all, let's go all the way back to your high security clearance job where you're a manager, but not because of security clearance. You said that you were 23 years old or something, managing people much older than you, but you got promoted to that position pretty quickly.
Right.
I would say that, yeah, I'm just going to go off on the rant right now, all right? And this isn't necessarily just me and my profession, because I feel like I'm very fortunate for the work that I have, but a common thing across millennials on the internet and stuff is talking about career paths. First of all, getting into some kind of a career path, but second of all, like, how do you go up from there? And like the things that are often complained about and stuff is like companies going out to, Indeed and LinkedIn and promoting from outward instead of promoting from within and stuff. What advice do you have? Like, how did you do it back then? Like, how did you end up going up, climbing your own career ladder and stuff? How did you get noticed as a 23-year-old that
Within
you
the
were the right
company?
person to become the manager over older employees or people who have been there longer than you?
Well, I definitely enjoyed what I loved. I love, the business, the work that was involved. So when I found out that the assistant manager was leaving, I volunteered for it. I said, can I have that position? Can I interview for it?
Mm-hmm.
They briefly interviewed me, and I was given the position. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Initiative.
Yeah, yeah.
Initiative.
Yeah.
Initiative.
It's
Okay.
so
Initiative is
important
very
to
important.
show.
So it wasn't just given to you.
Right.
Like,
No. It was. I had to earn it. Right.
Okay.
So, and then when the manager left, then I thought, okay, well, do I want that responsibility? It was almost a $2 million contract that I would be responsible for. And so I was a little bit intimidated and worried about that. But I said, you know what? I know the job. I was assistant manager, and I knew she would train me a little bit before she left. So I said, I want to apply for the manager position too. And
Okay,
so,
go get her.
So
Boss.
I, got a little more money, and I got the job. I got the job, and of course I earned more money. So, I learned a lot more and how the contract worked, the business. So I excelled. The superiors that I reported to never had issues with our work, with our contract, with any of the employees that I was over. We did an excellent job for
That's
them.
awesome.
And they kept renewing our contract every year
Wow.
because of that. So,
And that goes on your resume too. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
incredible. What do you think was more important in that position? The knowledge of how to do the day-to-day tasks, or knowing how to manage the team properly?
It's both. It's both, really.
That doesn't
I mean,
help at all.
You have to know. You have to know the task at hand. You have to know how to handle it. You have to know, all the ins and outs of the position, right? Like, obviously, to do your job well. But then also just making sure that you ask questions along the way. Well, how do I do that again? And can you train me on this? Can you show me this? Because I wasn't exposed to that. So just asking questions too is going to bring all this knowledge. And if you have all of that combined, you're going to be fine.
Gotcha.
You're gonna
Yeah.
be fine.
Because that's something that I've been looking at, like management stuff as well. Just like, I want to be myself. I want to be a better manager. I want to manage myself better. But I also want to be able to like manage my team well and stuff. And like one of the things that I've been reading up on, researching and stuff, or seeing, is that a lot of people leave jobs because of poor management.
Yeah.
And that there's some, like in the comments, you'll find people saying like management should be like its own individual skill altogether. Like a person who comes up like just being like the good salesman, who's then
Right.
promoted to being the manager of the salesman, that don't necessarily match up.
Right.
Like just because you were the best, what is it called? Rainmaker, haymaker? What do they call it?
I don't know.
The person who gets the most sales, the person who, just because you're the one who does the
Rainmaker?
best on the team, doesn't mean that you're going to do a good job leading that team and helping other people reach their goals and stuff. So like
Right.
management is its own other side. But the majority of people who leave their jobs leave either because they're not making enough money or because they can't stand their managers.
Right.
Their
That's
bosses, yeah.
exactly true. And, without me knowing back then in my DC days,
By the way, I love my manager. Shout out Jenny Glass.
without me knowing back then what management really was like and how to get there, I was doing then what I tell managers to do now.
What's
And
that?
it surprises me because I'm teaching you how to do this now, which these people don't really know. But I look back and think, well, I was doing that back then. Maybe that's what made me so successful in managing a team because
was
my
that?
team loved me. Well, it was checking in with your team, making sure they're okay, checking to make sure that they have the right tools for their job, and asking questions. I'm here for you. And it was every day. Hey, are you okay today? Are you doing all right? Hey, you have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday. And Monday comes along. How was your weekend? You're
Yeah.
checking in. Hey, well, how's that task going? What do you need help with? Is there anything I can help you with at the end of the day, 5 o'clock? Is there anything I can help with to help you tie up loose ends? Like, what can I help you with?
That's
I
good.
was doing that
That's
back
really
then,
good.
not even knowing that I would be teaching that now. That's what I teach now to managers that don't know how to connect with their teams.
Yeah.
That makes
That's the
such a
perfect
good
phrasing.
manager. That's
Yeah.
such a good leader quality
Right.
is being relational to your team, taking care of your team, and then ultimately they're going to respect you more. They're going to want to listen to you more. They're going to want to
Right.
learn from you more. And then you have more of an influence on them. So it's kind of like a circle, it connects.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and I always thought, a leader should not just be like reigning over you, like you do this, do this. Like, I
Right.
want to see you as a leader, as a manager, doing the grunt work too.
Right.
Because, like, and maybe that's where it comes from you too. Like, I'm like that as a leader. Like, I'll get down and dirty in the trenches and work on this with you or, help you and stuff. I'm not going to just be because I'm the manager.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
But we've all had managers
No,
like
we
that.
have.
that-
We
it's
have.
terrible.
I remember a manager coming up to me years ago, and they wanted a private conversation about how do I become a better manager because my team hates me.
Oh,
And I thought, okay,
Be likable.
yeah.
yeah, be likable.
So I kind of asked for some, examples, and they said, well, they just don't respect me, they ignore me, they don't really conversate with me, they don't respect what I have to say as far as can you please do this or that. And I said, so they don't appreciate your delegation, right? She says, no. And I said, let me ask you this: are you are you connecting with your team? Are you going to them every day, checking on them to make sure that they have everything they need for their job? Are you, just checking in at the end of the day, before you leave? Is there any loose ends I can help you with? So I advised them to make a point for the next 2 weeks, just to see how it goes. For the next 2 weeks, check in on your team every day. How are you doing? How are every single one of them? Ask them if they need anything. Ask them if you can help them complete any tasks. You're showing them that you care about them by being there for them, not just delegating.
Absolutely.
And so about 3 weeks later, I checked back in with this person, and they said, you know what? Things have turned around. Things have turned around.
Wow.
And, I feel the little respect coming back, and like, there is something to say about that because, they've now become more communicative.
Mm-hmm.
And so she says, thank you for that advice because I never would have thought to do that. And so, I've
That's great advice.
made sure that, I try to tell managers to connect with your teams.
Yeah.
Check in with them.
It goes back to like something that Charlie and I value the most as leaders, and just wanting to be a person of influence in a positive way is like, people do not care what you say if they know you don't care about them.
Right.
You have to show that you care about them first, and then they're willing to listen. And
Right.
it's creating that like relationship, whether it's an employee or manager relationship, or a life group leader, Bible study leadership, or whatever kind of leadership position. People don't care. They're not going to care what you have to say unless
Right.
they know you care first.
Exactly.
So-
That's perfectly said.
That actually goes into like how HR is, right? Like, the whole essence of HR is caring about your employees, making
Yeah.
sure they have what they need, making sure
Right.
they have all the documentation in their file and like all
Sure.
that stuff, and case by case listening to their grievances and stuff, and like
Yes.
helping them work through that.
Right.
So like, what is the most rewarding thing about HR as a whole, like work culture wise, workspace wise?
I think the most rewarding thing is seeing the employees happy, to come to work, knowing we're the emotional caregivers of the company. They come to us with their issues, we help them through that. But overall, seeing them engaged with each other, with the managers, with HR, that's rewarding. And if it's not there, then it takes a lot of work to get there.
Yeah.
Where I'm at with my new job, I'm still working through that. I'm probably, maybe 60% there.
On training the managers.
On training the managers and evolving that company culture, into what we want it to be.
Would you say that you feel like, because that concept right there of just like care for your people, like as a manager, like the advice you gave, is that something that happens to you naturally? And if so, are you surprised when you find out that not everyone just has that naturally?
It does come to me naturally because,
Yeah.
because I'm a servant, right?
Yeah.
I want to serve my people. I want to serve my employees.
Yeah.
And I have worked with people, team members, and even outside of HR that did not have that naturally. So you have to teach it.
Yeah.
And for me, being in HR, you have to have that people factor. There's just no doubt about it. You have to have that people factor in order to love your job, right? So if it's not there, then it's something that I've mentored, and it's been successful. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it would be hard to teach it.
yeah,
Like,
it's
'cause it's
really
like you
hard
said,
to teach it.
it's a natural like personality
Right.
trait or characteristic.
But I think it might also come from the experience that people have had, like with their own bosses and stuff. Like I think if you had a boss who acted that way, it's easier for you to understand this is how bosses act. Versus if you've only been under bosses who didn't really care about you and only cared about the bottom line and the work and stuff.
Right,
Then it's like it's harder for that to come to you.
right,
Right.
I know for me and my team, and I wouldn't paint myself as like the best boss or whatever, but one of the things, like when we have like our staff meetings and stuff, it frequently ends up turning into, after we talk about all the business stuff, all the work stuff for the week, we still end up talking for like another 30 minutes, just like catching up and stuff. And I think that's where a lot of the strong bond within my team kind of comes from.
yeah,
Yeah.
And whenever
That's
you get
good.
too consumed in the work and like you don't do that, you
Yeah.
could feel like the change in the environment of the office, like the whole atmosphere just feels different.
yeah. Bottom line is you have to let the employees have a voice. They have to have a voice. If they're not heard, they rebel, they withdraw, they disconnect, they leave the company. They want to be heard, and so that's when a company should do at least once a year, or maybe employee surveys, right? So we can find out where our employees' mindset is, where they stand. But if they're not heard, then it becomes difficult. So
Yeah, everybody wants to feel seen
right,
and valued.
right.
Like at any workplace I've been, I'm like, I feel like I'm doing good work, but nobody's telling me I'm doing
Right.
good job.
Yeah.
And then it's not like I'm like a pick me or like give me a compliment, but it's like people want to feel valued
Right.
anywhere that
Right.
they're giving their time and their energy, and they're like a part of the team and putting in the effort, and especially those people that go above and beyond and like take initiative, you have to really value them
Yeah.
because they're the ones holding it down too
Right.
and leading
That's
by
true.
example.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I've had those two types of bosses you mentioned earlier. I've had them both. So,
Yeah.
but what's good is if you don't hear directly from your boss that you're doing a good job, or, you're satisfying, whatever tasks and duties, you hear it from other people, other departments. That's what I've heard with this job is, hey, they love you. They do, they love you. You're doing a great job. And I said, okay, because I haven't heard anything. But okay.
So even as HR director,
yeah.
you're still looking for like that
Yeah.
that validation.
Yeah. Even your HR leader, your director,
Yeah.
vice president, they want to hear that they're doing a great job. They want to hear they're headed in the right path.
That's probably a good thing for managers to know too
Yeah.
about like complimenting your people, because in some professions, particularly like so in my profession in media, a lot of the times like if no one's saying anything, that's a good thing.
Oh, wow.
If you work in any kind of career where you are kind of behind the scenes, it's like no news is good news kind of thing. But having bosses and managers that end up like bringing it up and telling you did a good job, or sharing those emails that managers get where like people are mentioning, hey, this person did really well, and forwarding that to, because my boss does that to me. Like if I put out a video or something and she gets an email, someone like says they enjoy it or something, she always forwards that to me just so I can like get that feedback and stuff. And it feels
That's
really
good.
good knowing that, wow, that's great that people appreciate the work that I'm doing.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah,
not just
yeah, that's
stopping at your department. Like you're actually making an impact.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I
Because
love
I'm
that.
sure there's lots of jobs where for the most part, if your boss isn't coming at you or anything, that means you're doing a good job, but you never get to hear it.
Right.
Yeah,
You
that's
only hear when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk real quickly about like micromanaging because
My
we've
favorite.
talked about like the good managers and like what you should do as a good manager, but what do we do about a situation where I know my work ethic? You give me an assignment, like personally, I know I'm gonna get it done, but I have had micromanagers on my shoulder, and I'm like, I am gonna do it. Just trust me. Like, what how what do you do in that situation as an employee doing your work, doing your job, but you're micromanaged?
It seems
'Cause
like you
that-
got pretty great jobs. You ever had your own micromanager?
I have had a micromanager.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not fun.
It's super.
I-
Getting all that input. Are you
I-
kidding me? That's like the best. I
Yeah.
love to hear exactly
Whatever.
how I should be doing the thing that I'm good at.
Well, I mean, if a micromanager is constantly stopping you, okay, where do you stand with this? How much longer do you need? Where's this task? And what about that? When are you going to start this project? And it's just like, stop. Just let me do my work. And the reason why they're a micromanager is because, one, they don't know what you're doing. They don't know those tasks. And two, they just don't trust you
Oh.
because they don't know you, right? So you have to trust your employees to do the job that they were given, right? That they were assigned. And if you don't know their job, that's not their fault. You need to become involved as a manager to get to know their job so that you understand everything that comes with the tasks and the responsibilities. Otherwise, if that's not, if that's not there, then that's why they become a micromanager. Because they don't know how to manage you as an employee because they don't know what you're doing and they don't trust you.
Would you think that it's also an insecurity on like let's say it's the opposite, like they don't know let's say they know exactly what you're doing, but they're nervous about how they're coming across looking, like if there's been failures in the department or whatever, and now they feel like they have to control everything to make sure that they look good.
So the
You think
managers,
that's a part of it?
like the managers are under scrutiny from the top.
Yeah.
So they're trying to control the department.
Well, I mean, I've never had that situation, but I think that's because, those are people that are, they just want to be in control. What's the word?
Psycho.
think of the
I'm just
word.
kidding.
For me,
Yeah.
for me, the word is Charlie. No, that's
No.
one of probably my management flaws is like especially when like training other people to do the tasks that you do. and especially when it's like they're in the early stages, right? And so you're trying to teach them to do tasks and whatnot, and then in your head, it's like, look, I got a deadline. It's gonna be faster if I just do this myself.
Oh, jeez.
And then taking, yeah,
And then you just bottleneck all of the workload because it's
Right.
like, I'm gonna do this quicker. It's gonna take way too much time to actually teach you. But then when you have that, you actually never end up teaching it, and then it's always on you.
Well,
Yeah.
my advice is start sooner. Start sooner. Start
That's what I'm
6
working
weeks
on
ago.
now.
Start 6 weeks ago. Start training your employees 6 weeks ago, not the last minute when you need it. You
Yeah.
know,
yeah,
they'll have plenty of time to learn it and have it done for you next time.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Yep, that's what I'm working on now.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard to juggle many things.
I think too, it depends on like when that employee's hired too. Like somebody could have dropped out and then they're hired and then you got to train them but then there's a
True.
project. You know, it's like bad timing. You know?
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just,
I mean, you could do the work and just have them shadow you,
yeah, that's true.
and you're teaching them while you're doing the work. So
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I want to talk next is about like the interview process because your HR, obviously you see everybody coming in, you know, every employee that's been hired, you've talked to them and stuff. What are some things that you look for as you're interviewing someone? Like what are the green flags, I would say, the top qualities that you look for
yeah, I
based on their answers or
okay. I look for adaptability. Just wanting to know how they adapt to changes, right? And I look for dependability. You know, can we depend on them? Are they committed? Are they responsible? And I look for initiative. Do they have the initiative to take on new tasks, you know, that are presented, you know, aside from their current projects? You know, give me examples, you know.
How does a person portray that?
yeah, how do you
How do I
portray
You
that?
portray
can you can
initiative?
ask them, you know, in the interview process, you know, well, tell me an instance where you showed initiative, right? And you
Oh.
have to let them tell you the story. And so that's how you find out more about them, right?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Um,
So you set him up basically.
yeah.
To fail.
You can ask about interpersonal skills, how they handle a critical issue maybe with others, you know. You'll really find out their demeanor in that area.
Right.
And then, you know, their judgment, you know, how do they handle tough situations? What is their decision making? Like you want to ask them examples of that. Like, you know, how would you handle if you had a situation you had to decide between this project or that project? You know, you got to present examples for them to give you the answers you're looking for.
What's the right answer to that question? Both projects.
Tell us
Do it both simultaneously.
Tell us the A plus
Well,
answers.
I think the right answer would be, you know, you look at each project to see which one's more priority and you set timelines. And then depending on the timelines, you know, you're going to work on this one before you start the next one, or, you know, work them simultaneously, but the one that's priority, you're going to focus more on that.
By the way, this is how all of my siblings landed our jobs. We got all the answers.
Oh, right.
She prepped
Perfect
us.
thing.
We would do mock interviews like, Mom, what are they going to say?
You
What
know,
it-
since you
like,
said that, you know, want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
When I was in 9th grade, I was in vocational office education. I had just selected that. 'cause
What?
Yes, yes.
What
I
was
know.
it? Vocational office-
education.
Hold on. So you started working at
VOE.
15, but you started training at 9.
Yeah, I started training when I was 14.
That's actually a really
That's
good life
probably-
skill, though.
Yeah.
Why I got my job at 15, because at 14 in the 9th grade, I joined this, you know, elective class, VOE.
All the
And
suckers
so-
were studying for the SATs, and she was over here studying for job interviews.
Heck yeah.
And so, I mean, there was maybe 12 or 15 of us in the class. And so my teacher, you know, I guess she saw something in me. We kind of mocked interviews in the classroom. And so I was really good at it. And she focused on me more and trained me and mentored me into interviews. So then we had state competitions. So
What?
I'm not sure where we went.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure where we went. I remember going in the school bus, probably somewhere in Houston or Galveston. I remember it being an hour drive. It was far, and it was state competitions, and it was me and this other girl who were part of the interview contest, and the other
That's
people,
wild.
they were in other contests. You know,
I'm not gonna lie, that is one of the nerdiest things I've ever heard.
I was,
I never knew that about. I never knew that about you.
That's
Mom.
amazing.
I was a big nerd. I was.
Mom was a book nerd.
I mean, I was in the student council. I was a nerd.
That is awesome.
So I went to this
Yearbook
contest.
Society. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So
I went to this contest, and I remember everything I had practiced on, and I knew what I had to say, and I went to this interview contest. Finally got there, and they start, and I was nervous as heck, and so, but I did everything I was told, everything that I was taught, and so the thing is, here are the keys. You have to sit straight, and you have to look at the interviewer. You can't, slump or, go, or look away. And I mean, I did everything I was supposed to. I sat straight, I looked at the interviewer, and I answered all the questions, and I won second place
what?
in the state.
Heck yeah, Mom.
Wow.
I never knew this.
Yeah, surprise.
Oh my! Wait.
So
So,
why
what
didn't
was?
you want to come on the podcast?
Why were you nervous?
I'm just nervous.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I won. I couldn't believe it.
What was your title though? What was the title of the trophy or like certificate?
Most hireable.
Most hireable.
It was second place winner of the interview something. I don't remember. It was an interview contest.
Oh.
And so I won second place in the state.
That is
How
the
do you
kind.
not have your own interviewee consulting business?
Yeah, I know. I should.
I've
I
told
will
her
train
that.
you
No,
how to interview.
I have told her that she needs to consult because
I mean,
clearly she has the training.
yeah. I mean, I was consulting before. When I was laid off, I was consulting for a little while. But full-on consulting, I don't know. That's a whole different world for me.
That is such a life skill that's not even taught in school
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
That is so crazy how that was
Yeah.
a something that was a elective.
Competition.
Yes, it was a
competition.
competition. So guess what? When I was interviewing for my dealership position, even though it was working in the parts department, I did the exact same thing. I sat up straight and I looked at the interviewer and I answered all the questions and I shook hands and I mean,
At 15.
I got the job.
She got
fif-
4 job offers a day. People walking in.
Indeed, just overflowing with emails. That's awesome.
You know what?
I know you're
I-
just counting nails, but I want to hire you.
Yeah. I actually found the other day at the house, I was going through a box and I found my letter cutter from that class.
What?
I had a letter opener.
Oh, wow.
And it's stamped on there, VOE something. I got to look at it again, but
That's fun.
That was fun. So that has helped me, I think, through the years in my interviews and my process for interviews.
So
and
you
stuff.
look for like posture, eye contact,
So me being on the other side now,
clear,
when-
direct
when I-
communication.
What if
Yes.
the posture is bad, but they got swag?
the answers then come in handy. So yeah, I look when I'm interviewing. I look for that. I want to see the posture. I want your eyes on me. I want you to answer my questions clearly, right? And I want you to shake my hand when you walk out the door.
Wow.
When it's over, I look for that. And to add to that, I always ask 5 descriptive words of them, right? Just to see what kind of person they are.
Uh-huh.
And so this one was tough for me when it was presented to me as in an interview. I pretty much went into shock because I didn't know what I was going to say. But the question was, give me 5 words that best describe you. And I was like,
Stumped.
That's always a hard one because
It
I
is
hate
a hard
talking
one.
about like
It is so
well, I'm
tough.
this and I'm that and I'm that.
yeah, but you find out so much about a person when they say that. They
Yeah.
could say they're loyal, they're trustworthy, they're honest, they're hardworking, they're a team player. I mean, but I've had some crazy answers like, well, I like to play tennis. I really get along with people. And it's just not what I
Ma'am, this
want
isn't
to
a dating show.
hear. Yeah. And
I like
plus,
the long walks on the beach and
yeah. On top of that, I said 5 words, not 5 sentences. So
Oh.
I'm really picky about that. So
Oh, you're cutthroat.
you're either
I'd be
listening
intimidated.
to the instructions
Uh-huh.
or you're not.
Oh,
So
that is even like a
Yeah.
tricky. That's almost like a loophole thing. Like, give me 5 words,
yeah.
and then give you sentences, and then it's like you're not.
And when they're
listening.
struggling after the second one and they're just like sitting there thinking, I said, just 5 words. Just give me 3 more words. That's it.
You can do it.
What are
can do
5
this.
things you like about yourself?
Oh my gosh.
So, but people do stumble on that and they hesitate because they don't know how to answer.
What if someone says hard worker? That's technically 2 words.
Well, I'll accept it.
So don't you have a 5 though that you look for?
I have 3 that I look for.
You have
Do
3
you
out
know
of
what those 3 are?
No.
what?
Okay, yes, I'll tell you.
Okay, yeah, tell us.
I look for trustworthy, loyalty, and honesty because that tells me that
I wouldn't have said
9
any of
times
those.
out of 10, that employee is going to stay with the company because they're committed. They're going to be loyal. They're going to stay there and not jump around. If I don't hear any of those words, at least one, I might not be hiring, just depending.
Yeah.
Just depending on the other answers, though, to the other questions.
Yeah. And you'll depend on the other 2 words too.
Right.
that
Yes.
you
I wait
probably
for
are
those
not
words.
telling us.
Oh, I wait for the 5 words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't
You know what?
don't
I
put
don't
them all
think-
out in your bat. Don't pull them all out.
Right? We can cut it out if you need us to, in case you don't want the interviewees to know the secrets.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't have used any of those words for myself.
Yeah.
What
Not
would
that
you
I'm not those things. It's just not what I would have thought about.
Yeah. And like as an interviewee, how should I come ready or like how do I prep myself to land the job?
Okay. So
Give us that advice.
the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure you do your research on the company before you go into your interview. That is super important. The interviewer wants to know that you did your research, that you are invested, you really are interested in that position. You have to do your research about the company. If you
Okay.
don't, it does make you look bad, right?
Oh.
So, and then you go through the motions, you answer the questions that they're asking you. Again, you're sitting straight, looking at them. You're not slouching and looking away. And towards the end, when the interviewer says, okay, well, do you have any questions for me? Don't say, no, I'm good. Don't say that. They don't want to hear
She's
that.
getting into her HR.
They don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I want you to ask me
Oh.
questions.
Okay.
And so the questions that I would recommend for you to ask are some of these. What is the company culture like? Right? It's up to you whether you want to ask that or not, but what is the company culture like? What makes the employees happy to work here? You know, because you want to know. Why did my predecessor leave? You have every right to ask that.
Oh, that's a good question.
Why did my predecessor leave? You want to know. I mean, maybe they resigned. Maybe they moved to another state. Maybe.
But are they allowed to tell you?
Yeah, they'll
Oh,
tell you.
okay.
They'll tell you. Another one would be, does the company offer tuition assistance, tuition reimbursement? Because you want to know, do they offer continuing
That's
education?
good.
Let's think about that.
Yeah.
You want to ask, is there anything on my resume that I'm lacking that would make me a better fit for this position?
Oh, that's a good
You
one.
should ask that.
That is a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this way they can't hold you responsible for something that you didn't come with.
Right, right.
So
That's
you should
really
ask
good.
that. And the last one I would ask is what are their immediate challenges in the department that I would need to face as soon as I got the job? And you're speaking in the terms of I have the job already. You always want to speak in
Future tense.
right. Like what am I going to face right now? What am I, when I have the job and when I this, it's I,
Yeah.
not, if I were selected, you don't want to say
Right.
that. You want to say, when I'm in the position, what am I going to face? What am I, looking at, right? So you definitely want to claim that job as your own.
Good.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Fall under the assumption that you already have the position.
Yes. And
You
the
gotta
last
speak it.
question I've asked before is, when can I start?
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That always gets like a kick out of them,
Yeah.
right?
They
Like,
always laugh.
They always
It
laugh.
breaks
It
up
kind
the
of breaks up.
monotony.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ice.
I
Breaks
had
the
a,
ice.
one question. I would consider this probably the best question I ever asked as an interviewee. How would you measure my success in this position?
That's a
Oh,
good
I've asked
question.
that before. That's important too.
And it actually ended up throwing back the interviewer. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
But I was asking because I was like, I know that guy's being let go because he messed up. It's
Like, where's the bar?
What does it
Right.
mean that I'm doing a good job? Like, how
Yes.
would you measure my success? Like, what's the
Right.
metric here?
Exactly.
That's a
and
good question.
Asking that question there kind
Yeah.
of ended up like it stumped him. And then there was 2 people there interviewing, and the more senior person goes, I've asked that question in my interviews before. That's a good tactic. I was like, it didn't need to be a tactic.
You got it from Gigi.
Gigi.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
just kidding.
I've asked, how am I going to be measured in the first 90 days? So that's a good one too, because you want them to know that you want to be held accountable, that you are doing a good job,
Yeah.
that you're, hired for the right reasons.
That
right?
you're being
So-
trained too,
right,
as well.
Exactly. And
It kind of
so-
puts them in accountability.
Exactly. It puts them accountable for your position.
Kind of addresses
hiring
the
you.
challenges and
Right.
stuff, because if there are challenges, like, you're hiring me because you need somebody to fix these challenges.
Technically, yeah.
And so what is that? And like,
Right.
obviously it's not going to happen right away. So how do I know that I'm on the right track? How do I know that your perception of me
Right.
is that I'm on the right
Exactly.
track?
That's good.
Yeah. So I created, or my team and I back in the day created this form called 90-day orientation. So we would hand that to an employee, well, to a manager, but for a new employee. And week one, day one, they would do these things. Week one, they would do these 3 things. And then after that, every 2 weeks, right?
You still have this?
Yes, I have that document. I still
That would
use
be
it.
really good for you.
How is this not something that you're selling as a digital product?
I mean,
I'm telling you, I
Literally
need to
could
be
be a
mom's
digital
manager.
Seriously,
I
because
need
like
to be-
people would pay if you told companies, here is a proven and tested document
Yeah.
that
No.
helps you with your onboarding process and making sure that
Yeah.
your people are hitting their
yeah,
markers.
yeah.
Companies would pay for that.
Because in that 90-day period, you're going to know whether they're a good fit or not for the position, for the company, and you can release them if they're not going to be, in
Right.
that 90 days. But
Yeah. If they're
after,
not hitting those.
30 days, you've met with them at least 2 or 3 times. And by the 90th day, you've met with them now like 6, 8 times throughout that. And each of the 2 weeks, you can set new goals for the next 2
You're
weeks.
also building relationship
Yes.
too.
And you know what? The employee feels valued most of all. They feel important because you're spending time with them. You're mentoring them and coaching them through their positions, making sure that they have all the tools to be successful.
That's a really good,
It's so important to do that.
really
And
good
so
method.
I introduced it at my new job, and they absolutely loved it.
Don't
So,
give this to anyone else for free.
No, don't. Mom, I'm so I believe my work ethic and everything, along with my dad's leadership, it comes from you guys. Like, we were at a very young age. All of us have very strong work ethic, and it's almost like I go into a job, any job that I'm in. Even if I'm, like right now, I'm a makeup artist, right? And I'm a contracted makeup artist for other companies. I want to make that company look good. It's not even I'm a makeup artist. I'm not promoting myself. I'm not like trying to steal their clients. I'm like, no, I'm working for X company, and I want to be the best I can be as a representative of that company.
Right.
So I, even as my own self-employed, status, I'm still like, I'm working for somebody.
Right.
And I just feel like all of that is, a hat off to like you and Dad, just like work ethic, strong leadership skills, caring for people is the main thing. And that's where I just really I loved your story. And I even learned stuff that I didn't even know about the freaking interview competition.
Right?
But no, I just really appreciate you also helping us shape our careers and giving us advice and helping us work through our situations with our managers and bosses and stuff like that. But I wanted to leave. Anything you want to say? Or because she's helped
Thanks
you
for the
too.
interview tips. No, you have. You
Yeah.
helped me write up resumes and stuff
Yeah.
too. Like, you kind of helped
Yeah.
me, what is a person looking for and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because, you and I both had, not everybody knows all of our backstory, but we both, lost jobs in the exact same year. You 3 months before you had our first baby, me 3 months after. So within a 6-month
Yeah.
period, boom, rug pulled out. And so
Yeah.
you were a huge help in helping us get on our feet and helping us find more work and stuff
Yeah.
after that point.
And it's funny because even Christian and Lucy, they're the youngest of our family, and they usually ask me, or tell me something about their interview, and I'm like, no, you need to ask this, and you need to ask that, and you need to say this, and you need to say that, and so they go prepped.
Yeah,
They leave
that's
the house
awesome.
prepped. So
That's good.
That's how we landed all of
Yeah.
our jobs. But
Yeah, I faked my way through my interview. I didn't know anything about
you
my
gotta
job.
fake it till you make it.
that's funny.
So I wanted to ask this question to kind of wrap it all up, knowing now your history, your work history. starting at a young age, shaping and molding yourself and your career into where you are now. If you could tell your younger self one thing about success, that 15-year-old, why are we getting emotional? What would you tell her? Because you've built such a successful life for yourself, from raising your family, from raising your kids, and being married for 30 years, having such a strong work ethic and strong character. You've done well.
I have, and I would tell that 15-year-old self to keep going, to keep sacrificing, and keep learning, and always ask questions. Keep asking questions because you're going to get there.
Yeah.
But sacrifice is the main thing. You have to sacrifice a lot in order to get what you want, right? Time with family. Your dad knows that very well. He sacrificed a lot of time from his family in order to be successful with the Marines. But I would tell that 15-year-old self to just keep going, keep striving. Things are going to get better. It's not always going to be difficult. And you will have the better things in life later in life.
Yeah. It's going to be worth it.
Right. It'll be worth it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I need to hear that now.
I have to say, I have to give my mom and dad a lot of credit because they both each had very strong work ethics. Very, very strong. My mom worked 3 and 4 jobs to raise us. My dad worked for Kroger and H-E-B his whole life for 40 years.
Wow.
And, he was a drinker, but he went to work every day, never missed. And he made sure we always had food on the table. But when mom and dad split, mom took that over, and mom worked many, many jobs to make sure we had everything we needed.
Yeah.
So that's where I gained my work ethic from. I always wanted to work hard to have the things that I wanted and to provide for my family what I think they should have, So
Yeah.
it's all thanks to them.
That's awesome.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Well, Mom, we absolutely enjoyed you on our podcast.
Yeah.
And I love
It's
you
my
so
pleasure.
much.
I had fun. My pleasure.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the No Degree Just Experience podcast. We're going to have another guest on next week. So please tune in, hit that subscribe button. Please like the video, and we'll see you in the next one.